That goes for your relationship with your spouse. That goes, as you're going through life with family, friends, but also business partners. Like, I think it's important to make it so to enable yourself to be open and being able, you got to kind of expose yourself to having the potential of being hurt to a certain extent. You don't want to be naive. You don't want to be, because I've made that mistake too. You don't want to open yourself up unnecessarily to unnecessary risk. But at the same time, you don't want to be so guarded that you don't let anybody close, because if you don't let anybody close, you're never going to have the people around you that can help you do something really, really significant. Hey, what's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and this video is going to be fun. So check this out. My wife read an article, and the article was about Jeff Bezos and a commencement speech that he gave back in 2010 about how to live a happy life and how to not have regrets in life. And he did this back in 2010. And my wife said that as she was reading it, she could do nothing but think of me. And she sent me this little cute note, and it was awesome. And she was basically like, you need to film a video on this because it totally reminds me of you. And so, full transparency, I have not read this yet. I read a little bit of it, and I just got to the point where he was going through the list of the 12 things that you need to do to live a life of no regrets. And so I'm going to read them, and I'm going to kind of give my little interpretation of each thing. So this should be a little bit of fun. So let's get into this. So let me take a look. How will you use your gifts? So check this out. So the perfect choice, I'm going to read this actually right out of the gate. So he says the perfect choice doesn't exist. So the truth in life is that we'll all make choices that we end up regretting. It's called failure. And failure can be a good thing because it teaches us how to be better. But as we all grow older, our goal should be to minimize the number of failures that lead to regret. In the end, we are our choices. Build yourself a great story, he said towards the end of his speech. To build a great story, Bezos offered 12 questions and urged everyone to think deeply about them. So here they are. Question number 1, how will you use your gifts? Okay, so that's interesting. So this is something, I guess, that everybody has to contemplate, right? Like, how are you going to use your gifts in your life? Everybody, I'm truly a believer that everybody's been blessed and gifted gifts from God that, we're just, I guess, given the responsibility to utilize those gifts while we are on earth to, not to sound corny, but to make the world a better place, to leave the world better than what we found it. I just believe it is our responsibility to do that. And so how are you going to use your gifts? I mean, I look at my gifts. I was, if you go back in history, initially for me, I was not using my gifts for necessarily a lot of good in my 20s. I was a professional poker player. Now, it was great for me. It was a fun life. And my wife and I, back at the beginning of our relationship, we had a lot of fun. We traveled a lot. We had a lot of cool experiences, made a lot of money, did a lot of cool things. But was it really doing much for the world? I would say the answer is an unequivocal no, right? And so now taking my gift of numbers, gifts of how to help people and communicate with people effectively, and really to be able to take complicated things and break them down to their simplest parts. I'm really, honestly, I feel blessed to be in the space that I'm in, to help life insurance agents be more effective with their practice, help people have a better understanding about their own personal financial situations, and to take complicated ideas and concepts and make them simple, because I think, unfortunately, personal finance is made way more complicated than it needs to be. And that is one of the reasons that one of the taglines of Life 180 when I first started it was simplifying financial confusion. And I think that's a gift of mine. And so I encourage everybody to really identify what are your gifts and how can you utilize those gifts to make a positive impact in the world. And the answer is, I know every single person can, and I encourage you to figure out what that looks like for you. All right, so number 2 is, what choices will you make? Let's face it, we all have to make choices in life, that we come to forks in the road, and we have to make a decision. I remember when I was working in the IUL space, I had to make a choice of what direction was I going to go. I had bought into the idea of hook, line, sinker of the value and the benefits of index universal life insurance. I sold a lot of premium. I was, coaching a lot of agents, building a massive organization. And then I realized that it wasn't what I thought it was, right? And so I had this fork in the road. I had to make choices at that point in time. What was I going to do? And one choice was me going a certain direction and not believing in what I was doing anymore. Yet it would have been the ability to keep going. Life would have been a little bit easier, a lot of it easier. I would have had less hard conversations because of the crucial and challenging conversations that followed a change in belief and direction on my part. But I had to make a choice. Was I going to stay on the path that was going to be easier and more profitable immediately, or was I going to take the thing that I believed in? And that's one of the things that I've always held for my life. No matter what the world believes in around me, no matter what the story is in the environment that I'm in, I'm always going to have my own beliefs, and I'm going to stay true to them. And I'm, sometimes to my own detriment, I hold to what I believe in, and I'm uncompromising in that. So if I believe it, I'm going to go that direction. And even if it's to my detriment, that's the path I'm going to take, because I just believe every single person, that's one of the things that we have to make sure that we do. We follow our hearts, we follow our passions, and you can't compromise on that, because it's a slippery slope when you start to. All right, number 3 was, will inertia be your guide, or will you follow your passions? Okay, so not really sure what he means by inertia. Is it quick results, or are you going to follow your passions? That's how I'm going to interpret that, is will you be seeking fast results, or are you going to follow your passions? I don't know why you can't have both, right? Like, I guess maybe I'm too much of an optimist, but I'm a believer that you can follow your passions, but you can go after that and try to get positive results in that, in whatever that looks like. Now, for me, I think one of the beautiful things for me is I'm a very results-oriented person, right? Like, and so I have one of the key foundational results that I have, and one of the passions that drives me is making a difference in the world, making a difference in my community with the people that I come in touch with every single day. And so from that perspective, it may be a little weird that I am so passionate and excited about life insurance as an asset, right? Like that is one of my things that obviously I think differentiates me, is my uncommon and like indescribable and like just it makes no sense kind of excitement and passion for what life insurance can do for people, right? Because that's just not a sexy thing, let's face it. But that's not what gets me excited. What gets me excited is not the product in and of itself, it's what it does for people, and knowing the impact and the change that will make in people's lives, right? And so I think we can all find that, right? Like we don't get fulfillment for seeking fulfillment for fulfillment's sake itself, if that makes sense, right? Like what we do is we have to go out and we have to serve, and we have to find a way that we can make and leave a positive impact. And our contribution to the world is where we get our true fulfillment. That's what I truly believe. And so, I think it's important that if you have that as your measuring stick, right, for your passion, whatever that is, if that's the foundational passion, if that's your why, if you can really connect with something like that, then the inertia and trying to get fast results, if you can try to figure out how you monetize, put some sort of monetization around your passion, then you can have both. Because at the end of the day, money follows value. And that's kind of how I try to set up my life, is I'm going to be directly compensated to the level of value that I contribute to the world. So I would encourage everybody to kind of try to come at it from that same angle. Because when you do, you force yourself to become who you want to be to get to where you want to go. So number 4 is, will you follow Dogma, or will you be original? I think being original and being true to yourself is important. We can, Russell Brunson, who I'm a big fan of in the marketing space, he has a term called funnel hackers. And the whole concept and the process of funnel hacking is going and seeing what other people are doing successful and emulating that to a certain extent, but then putting your own spin on it and creating your own. There are frameworks of success that we want to follow, but staying true to yourself, I think, is really important. I'm not going to talk about this one a long time, because I think it's one of the foundational things that everybody needs to do. I'm not going to say like be completely original, because let's face it, I don't think anybody is purely original at this point in time, because we're all influenced by something in some way, shape, or form, right? Maybe it's a former business leader, maybe it's a book, maybe it's the Bible, right? Maybe it's your church and community, but we've all been influenced by different things in our lives. So my interpretation of that is like, I don't know that there's anything purely original, but I would encourage you to stay true to yourself. So number 5 is, will you choose a life of ease or a life of service and adventure? I don't know about you, but for me, I'm choosing a life of service and adventure every single time. I know I preach financial security and stability. I'm a big believer that we should put our risks in things that we know and understand, and our best investment is going to be in ourselves. I'm also a big believer that nothing worth doing is easy, and that if you want to have exceptional results in your life, you're going to have to live life in a way that most people aren't willing to live to get there. And sometimes that means going out and taking risks in ways that most people don't see, most people don't understand. I can tell you, a lot of my family for over a decade did not understand what I did not understand how I made money, did not understand anything that ultimately that I do in all the different businesses that I run. Some of them would think I'm a financial person. Some of them would think I'm a marketing person. Some of them just know that I just do this blend, that I'm like kind of a raging entrepreneur and I do all these random things, right? And so to me, they all make sense. They all come together, and it's all done in the eyes of trying to build something bigger, something that hasn't been done before, right? And so, to me, that's adventure. That's service. We're trying to create something that's genuinely going to be able to have a ripple effect and have an impact on a lot of people. And at the same time, I can tell you, we have all sorts of adventures in the process. Like, we're in the process of going to the Dominican Republic right now to look at opportunities that are out of this world, that most people never come across, that most people never get exposed to, and have the opportunity of getting involved in some sort of development in like a really cool area in the DR. We have the ability to do that because of the fact that we've taken these risks, we've developed relationships, and we've lived this really kind of crazy, bold life. It's not always the easiest thing. It's not always necessarily the smartest thing, but it's something that me and my wife have committed to for our family. And once again, I can't promise easy when you do that, but it certainly is worth it. Even when it's challenging, it's still fulfilling. All right, so number 6, this one's good. So will you wilt under criticism, or will you follow your convictions? Well, I think anybody that watches this channel knows that I'm somebody that will live by my convictions no matter what. Convictions sometimes change, right? Like I said, when I started in the Index Universal Life space, I was convicted and I sold a lot of it because of that. And then I pivoted because I had a change of education. I realized I didn't know what I didn't know, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about the content on Index Universal Life that I make. I want to educate people as to different ways to leverage life insurance, because I think it's a powerful thing. But because of the fact that I am convicted in that space, I get a lot of ridicule, a lot of hate, a lot of people coming at me. But that's just one of the areas that I stand true in my convictions, and that is how I live my life, period. I can tell you that. My wife will tell you that. For better or worse, and it's not always easy to do that. It's not always necessarily the smartest thing to do that either, I will tell you. But I hold true to my convictions. If I believe it, I have a hard time compromising in that. And at the same time, if I'm proven wrong, I'm happy to admit it. So that is that. So number 7, will you bluff it out when you're wrong, or will you apologize? Now, I guess that's an extension of the last one. I'm very convicted once again in what I do, but I'll also be the first one to admit I was wrong if I am proven wrong, right? And this is one of the reasons I created the IUL challenge for everybody that's watching this. Is like, I want to give people a chance to prove me wrong, and the first person that does, I'm going to bring them on. I'll give them accolades. I will. We'll open another level of the conversation, because I think that's healthy for the industry, and that's that's important to me. It is what it is. I know a lot of people kind of maybe view, because I do some pretty intense content around that topic, but it's just one example. My wife will tell you I'm pretty passionate in the things I do, but I'm also compassionate in the sense that if I am identified as making a mistake, if I am made aware, I should say, that I made a mistake, I am happy, maybe not necessarily happy, but I will acknowledge that I was wrong, and I will apologize. And I probably have had to do that more in my life than I care to admit. So Will you guard your heart against rejection, or will you act when you fall in love? Oh boy, this one is an interesting one. So not to get too personal, as I usually try to keep this business, but I have done 5 or 6 episodes on here with my wife talking about our story and our journey. If you haven't, just go ahead and search Business with Benefits. It's a podcast that my wife and I have done together. I interview her. We've done some episodes here on Life 180 channel, just me and her together, talking about our story of challenges. We got separated at one point in time, over a decade ago at this point in time, but we went through a lot of really nasty stuff, and it was really challenging, and it was stuff that would have broken up 99% of couples in this world. But I'm a big believer that when we made the oath, till death do you part, in front of God on that altar, like, I made a commitment and I was going to do everything I could to honor that. And it wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to do, but I think, you know, there's a lot, we all, I think, have to open ourselves up. If you really want to experience life fully, you have to open yourself up, and you have to be willing to be hurt if you're going to truly be able to experience life in the biggest way. And what I can say to that is, back then, a lot of people, when I was forgiving her for things that had been done, and we were going through the whole process of reconciling, so to speak, most of my friends and even some of the family were like, don't forgive her, she's not worth it, this and that. And the interesting thing is, I look back now and I can tell you that I would never trade any of that for anything at this point in time. Like, my life, I can't imagine my life at this point had I made a different decision. And we've been just blessed with so many gifts, and with our 3 kids and blessings in life that, honestly, I don't think we'd have. I don't think I would have had I gone a different direction. I look at it as a direct correlation to honoring a commitment. You know, that's the way I look at it, and to honoring just having an open heart and forgiveness and choosing love. You know, it sounds weird to say that on this channel, but like, that's just how I look at it. So I think that's important, to open yourself up. And that, by the way, I guess I'll go here. That goes for your relationship with your spouse. That goes, you know, as you're going through life with family, friends, but also business partners. You know, like, I think it's important to make it so to enable yourself to be open and being able. You got to kind of expose yourself to having the potential of being hurt to a certain extent. You don't want to be naive. You don't want to be, because I've made that mistake too. You don't want to open yourself up unnecessarily to unnecessary risk. But at the same time, you don't want to be so guarded that you don't let anybody close, because if you don't let anybody close, you're never going to have the people around you that can help you do something really, really significant. Number 9, will you play it safe, or will you be a little bit swashbuckling? I don't know what swashbuckling is, but I'm going to assume it's the opposite of playing it safe based on the context of this, you know, the way the question was asked. And so, listen, everybody's got a different personality. I'm the personality where, for me, I really don't have play it safe in my genetics. I'm just kind of a go for it kind of guy when I believe in something, right? And so I think I'm going to leave that one at that, because I really don't understand the definition of swashbuckling, but I'm not a play it safe guy. So I'm going to just say I'm going to do a little bit of swashbuckling there. When it's tough, will you give up, or will you be relentless? Well, here's what I'll say to that. I am relentless, I think, by definition. I think if I were to talk to the people that are closest to me, that is the word that would be the definition of me. My favorite quote, and I'm going to read this, and I just pulled it up. I have it on my signature. It's a Calvin Coolidge quote. It says, "Nothing in the world can take place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of uneducated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." So that just says, like, that statement right there is what I try to live by. Now, obviously, nobody's perfect. You know, we all have our weak spots, but what I can say is I try, well, I can't even say I try. I guess that's the thing. Like, I can't even say I try. I'm just naturally relentless, and it's, I feel bad for my wife sometimes, because sometimes it's infuriating. Like, even when I should give up, I probably should have given up in the past. I don't. So I can say that, you know, I guess looking back, that's had some negative consequences at times. And at the same time, it's had way more positives in our life than it has had negatives. So I wouldn't change any of that for the world. So I would say be relentless. If you're passionate in it, if you believe in it, just go after it. It's that whole 2 feet from gold kind of conversation. If you believe in it, go. Don't give up. People way overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. So people, I feel like, aren't relentless enough. They give up too easy. They give up too early. And if you were to just go and give it your all, and have the expectations that, you know what, it's gonna be harder than you think, that allows you to have the mindset and the emotional fortitude to be relentless to the level that you need to be to have the success in this life that you probably want to accomplish. Will you be a cynic or will you be a builder? That is number 11. So will you be a cynic or will you be a builder? You know what? I think you have to be a builder, but you have to know what you're building. I would consider myself a builder. I think a lot of people watching this channel would consider me a cynic because of all the ridicule that I give to Index Universal Life. And it seems that a lot of people, and my wife and I talk about this a lot, and some of my business partners and I talk about this a lot. It's a challenge for me because it's like, okay, I find myself in the IUL conversation, and I know I keep coming back to this because it's where a lot of my energy goes right now. As I'm thinking about that, like, there's a lot of wasted energy that goes into that conversation. But I was always the person who tried to protect the people who were getting bullies, the kids that were getting bullied in high school, right? I've always been the person who kind of looked after the people that, I don't know, didn't take care of themselves or, you know, weren't able to defend themselves. I kind of take that on sometimes. And, you know, with the IUL conversation, it seems like I'm cynical, but really what I'm doing is I'm trying to build a culture and a community of education so people, you know, I fully expect, like, I know and I have had some of the agents out there that represent Index Universal Life convert, have the education, come to that self-realization and discovery that they came to the same realization I did. Now, even if that's not you, because it's hard and the journey hasn't like really clicked for you yet, because the market has been good and the IULs haven't been as bad as I know they're going to get. If that's not you, and you're not ready to come to this realization that IUL is better, I'm not really doing this just to convince anybody. I'm doing this because what I'm trying to do is build a platform of education, and I think that healthy criticism is a good part of any conversation. It's a good part of any platform that's being built. Now, some people see it as cynical. I don't see it as cynical because I look at it as just education. I'm not trying to be cynical. In fact, cynical to me means that there's no way that there's going to be a good side to it. And I know I have this reputation of being the hater of IULs on YouTube, but that is not the case. And so I would say for this, you know, focus on being a builder. That has to be your first and foremost. But always look at things objectively and be willing to kind of disrupt the apple cart, so to speak, if you have to be part of that building and have crucial conversations. And that's where you're going to add value into people's lives. And so that's it. So number 12, finally, will you be clever at the expense of others or will you be kind? Okay, I'm just going to say this: be a good human. You know, this is one of the things. As you get into the life insurance industry as an agent, and I know I keep speaking to this because this is what I do. I coach life insurance agents. I coach people how to be successful. But I think for you to be successful as an agent, you need to connect with people. You need to be able to identify, you know, where people's challenge points are and be able to add value into their lives and understand what we do in a way that's actually going to add value to people's lives and serve people in that way. So I believe everybody gets into this industry, whether I'm right or wrong. I'm hoping at least most people get into this industry to help people. And what I would say is, don't be clever. Don't try to pull tricks and pull the shade over and design policies improperly. And I see a lot of cleverness going on out there. I guess that's one way to put it, is clever. To me, like I would use a different word. Clever is not the word if I'm thinking about being clever at the expense of others. But there is a lot of that going on in this industry. So I would just say to you, be a good human. If you're just going out there and you're trying to help people and serve people, be kind and choose kindness, and that'll be good. So anyway, yeah, that is those 12 things. That was very interesting to me. And so I'm excited to hear how you guys would feel about those questions, or how you would engage if in anything any different. Do you think I misinterpreted anything? Any feedback or comments, obviously welcomed. If you have anything, leave it in the comment section below. I'll do my best to engage with every single comment. And you know what? If you haven't already, I would love and appreciate if you subscribed and hit the bell. That way you get notified every time I launch a new video. I launch at least one video a day, usually one long, one short. You can also follow me over on TikTok at @RealChrisKirkpatrick, or on Instagram at @RealChrisKirkpatrick. And that's it. Have a blessed and inspirational day. We'll talk soon. See ya.